Hello and welcome to the West Side Podcast. This is where we'll post some of our audio from our sermons on Sunday, and we're so glad that you're here. Westside's purpose is to behold the glory of God and become the people God made us to be as we belong to God and one another. We hope you enjoy, and thanks for tuning in.
All right, so we are talking about the Exodus this morning, and it is a huge event in the life of the nation of Israel. A huge event that was a demarcation for them, a very important turning point that kind of separated their journey into before and after. Have you ever had something in your life that separated things into befores and afters? We started talking about, before that happened or after that happened. It changes the way that you talk about things. Well, I had one of these in high school. In high school, my years were pretty clearly divided by one very significant event: the day I ran away from home. Now, you might be thinking, is this the beginning of a really great testimony where you hit rock bottom and you found Jesus in high school? It's not going to be that at all. Because I was a goody two-shoes, and the day I ran away from home was the first time that I had ever shown even a glimmer of rebellion against my parents in my teenage angsty years. And I was a newbie. I was a rookie at being defiant, and so I was angry with my parents and I wanted to run away, but instead of taking the family car or even the four-wheeler, I decided I would show them by riding my bike 7 miles away to my friend's house, and they would wonder where I was. So, I'll show them. So I finally get to my friend's house, and I'm still just really mad and really sweaty. And I try to think of something that I can do to get back at my parents, because I'm so mad. Something really bad. Something like cutting my hair. I don't know why that I thought that would have an effect on my parents. Maybe I thought they loved my long hair, which I had, nice hair. But that was what my teenage brain decided to do, to get back at them. So I went into my friend's bathroom, and I grabbed my hair, and I grabbed the scissors, and I cut with gusto about 1 inch from my scalp. Right off the top. I had taken just a full like this and 1 inch. And my friend, who's looking in the mirror at me, goes, "Do you want me to even it out?" And she does. So my high school was divided to before I cut my hair and after I cut my hair. Before I cut my hair, I was fairly confident. A few boys thought I was cute, and my big sister's friends actually wanted to hang out with me. And here I am. If you have the first picture, this is me before. You can see my hair. It's kind of nice. After I cut my hair, my confidence took a huge nosedive. Boys avoided me like the plague, and my big sister's friends gave me some very, very mean nicknames. There I was. And this is even a few weeks after I had cut it. This was after it had grown in a little bit. Before and after. And it was okay. I survived it, and I think it actually made me become more confident, because you just have to when you look like that for a while in your teen years. But before and after, right? Big events in our lives can change the way that we think about ourselves, can change the way that we orient ourselves to our lives. And this is the Exodus for the Israelite people. The Exodus is the defining moment for them. It is the event that defined them as a nation. And we can even think of the Exodus as their before and after of meeting God. It's kind of like Israel's testimony. Because before the Exodus, the Israelites had heard about God. right? They had heard the stories about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Joseph, but we have to remember that was 400 years ago. So it would be like us hearing about stories of the pilgrims and how God was so faithful to them, and then kind of like, woo, nothing since then. It'd be interesting to see how we related to God if we hadn't really heard anything from him for 400 years. So they had heard about him, but they didn't really know him. And so in the beginning of Exodus, when we see them crying out to him because of their slavery, I think it was a bit of a Hail Mary, to be honest. A bit of a, well, nothing else seems to be working. Maybe we'll pray to Abraham's God. Maybe Abraham's God will hear us. Maybe he'll do something. Well, he did hear. And he did show up. And honestly, I do not think that they were prepared for it. Moses waltzes in from the desert. Joshua talked about Moses and his journey into the desert last week. He waltzes in from the desert. After 40 years, they haven't seen this guy. And he says, hey guys, Yahweh is real. He heard you. And he's going to get you out of here. And let me prove it to you. And then he does his fancy trick, right? He has a staff and he goes, watch this. Stick turns to a snake and everyone's like, oh, no way. Yahweh must be real. He must be telling the truth. Okay, and has anyone else thought about this? Do you think Moses practiced for that moment? Okay, if I was given a party trick like that, number one, I would use it to mess with my kids all the time. Number two, I would have practiced my delivery. He had that whole walk in from the desert, and I think that that's all he was thinking about. How am I going to do this? And then his big brother Aaron joins him, and they're walking in together, and he's probably like thinking about it. Stick, snake, stick, snake, stick, snake. And Aaron's probably like, I know we haven't seen each other in 40 years, but come on! Will you cut it out? What you gonna do to me if I do? You know, typical little brother, big brother dynamic here. It's like, oh, I'm gonna make you do all the talking when we get there. It's like, okay. I give. Leprosy? Nah. Oh! But all joking aside, Moses brings the good news that Yahweh's real, that he has heard them, and that he is going to do something to rescue them. Imagine that you are a slave, and you have not heard or seen from God in 400 years. You are hopeless. You are exhausted. You haven't had a day off your entire life. You have never left Egypt. And then people come in and start taking your sons and throwing them into the river. And then you hear that someone has heard your pleas, and he is coming, and he is going to get you out. How do you feel right now? Well, Exodus 4:31 tells us, and they believed. And when they heard that Yahweh was concerned about them and had seen their misery, they bowed down and worshiped. They were floored. And then Moses and Aaron go to Pharaoh, and they tell Pharaoh, God told us to tell you to let my people go. And I want you to listen to Pharaoh's response here, because it is pivotal to how we understand the book of Exodus. In Exodus 5:2, Pharaoh says, who is Yahweh? Who is Yahweh? That I should obey him and let Israel go. I don't know Yahweh, and I'm not going to let Israel go. We need to understand that Egypt had a lot of gods. Like a lot of gods. There were gods for everything. Crops, fertility, the river, birth, afterlife. There were deities all over the place. And you didn't just worship one as an Egyptian, and most likely an Israelite, because, come on, they've been living there 400 years. You didn't just worship one. The Egyptians worshipped 9 gods at a time. So you would pick your 9 gods, and they were called an ennead of your gods that you would worship en masse. And then Moses shows up and says, my God, singular, has an order for you. And Pharaoh is not impressed. He's like, okay, there's a lot of gods out there. I've heard of them all. I don't know yours, so get lost. And then he makes their life even worse for the slaves, doubling their workload, as if to stick it to this cocky God that is trying to tell him what to do. And the Israelites, they get discouraged. I mean, can you imagine, after all this time, and you got your hope up. You got your hope up. Someone's rescuing us. And then, oh, now life's even worse than it was before. I couldn't imagine it worse, but now it's worse. I guess we gambled wrong with Yahweh. They were discouraged. They lost all hope in him. They had used up every ounce of hope that they had to call on him, and it was gone. And Moses was feeling that way too. In Exodus 5:22 through 23, Moses says, why, Lord, have you brought trouble on this people? Is this why you sent me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has brought trouble on this people, and you have not rescued your people at all. Moses is honest. You are not the God that I thought you were. And God doesn't reprimand him. God doesn't double down and punish him like Pharaoh did. No, he tells Moses who he is. Exodus 6:2. I want you to notice every time God says, I am Yahweh. I am Yahweh. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as God Almighty. But by my name, Yahweh, I did not make myself fully known to them. I also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan where they resided as foreigners. Moreover, I have heard the groaning of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians are enslaving, and I have remembered my covenant. Therefore, tell the Israelites, I am Yahweh, and I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians. I will free you from being slaves to them, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. I will take you as my own, and I will be your God. Singular. Then you will know that I am Yahweh, your God, who brought you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians, and I will bring you to the land I swore with uplifted hand to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. I will give it to you as a possession. I am Yahweh. 4 times. 4 times he says, I am Yahweh. Don't you know me? But when Moses told the Israelites, they did not listen to him because of their discouragement. They just couldn't believe it. So instead of God continuing to try to tell them who he is, he just shows them. So if you ever have a hard time believing who God is, he's going to start showing you exactly who he is. The progression of 10 plagues that follows are God answering the question, who is Yahweh? And he's answering that question for Pharaoh, but also for the Israelite people. Who is Yahweh? What kind of a God is he? And we'll see that he answers that question by waging all-out war on the pantheon of Egyptian gods that they had been worshiping before. You want to know who I am? I'm not like any of these other gods. Let me show you. Number one, the first plague is the Nile River turning to blood. And this would have been a direct attack on one of Egypt's most important gods, the god of the Nile, whose very bloodstream was said to be the waters. This god was responsible for sustaining all life in Egypt. But when the river turned to literal blood, it brought death for a full 7 days. It's like God was bleeding out the god of the Nile. And so we ask, who is Yahweh? He is the God of the waters and has power to sustain life. So I need your help this morning because we're going to go through and we're going to ask that question, who is Yahweh? And I want us to answer it all together. So let's do it with this one. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of the waters and has the power to sustain life. And I don't think it was coincidence that the first plague begins in the Nile. That place where those Israelite babies were sent to their death. Now, the place that represented so much grief and pain and hatred and disgust to the Israelites, now it represented that to the Egyptians too. God was having the Egyptians feel just a sliver of the pain that they had made the Israelites feel. It's as if God is showing those Israelite parents that lost their babies, I saw, and I am not okay with it, and I am doing something about it right now. The second plague brings millions of frogs, which I thought was really weird. Okay, God, frogs, I'll go with you. The Nile teamed with them, and then they came up into the homes and the kitchens and the bedrooms and even the beds and their bowls and their ovens. I was like, okay, these are interesting details. Well, come to find out, the well-known Egyptian frog deity that looked like a frog, she was thought to provide the breath of life to newborns. And she was also associated with resurrection, which makes sense, breathing life into something that doesn't have life anymore. So the symbolism would not have been lost on the Egyptians. It was as if these frogs were haunting the Egyptians as the ghosts of those babies that had been thrown in the river. And they would not leave them alone. The Egyptians could not sleep. The Egyptians could not eat without being face to face with these frogs. Again, God sees, he cares, and he is doing something about it because he loves his people. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of new life and has power to resurrect the dead. The third plague turned the dust of the earth into some kind of parasite. A lot of theologians think it was lice, which is like, whoa, my worst nightmare. We have 4 kids, and it's always like, make sure we don't, I had it a lot as a kid. This would have been an attack of the Egyptian earth god. And it's also the first plague where Pharaoh's magicians can't replicate it themselves. And they proclaim to Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. So who is Yahweh? He is the God of the earth, and his power cannot be replicated. Are you starting to also hear some echoes of Genesis here? He is the God of the waters. He is the God that breathes life into things. He is the God of the earth. The next 2, he is the God of the things that fly. He is the God of the things that crawl along the ground. It's echoes of creation through this story too. Gives me goosebumps. The fourth plague is more bugs, most likely flies or beetles, But this time God sets the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were living, apart. So they were untouched by this plague, but all of Egypt was touched by it. And there were multiple insect deities, and this represented the failure of all of them. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of the creatures of the air and the protector of his people. He is showing them, and he is showing Egypt that he can protect them. The fifth plague continues God's protection of Goshen, as all the Egyptian livestock dies, but none of the Israelite livestock does. This was an attack on Egypt's cattle deities that were the most significant of their animal gods, which is probably why they choose a cow god to worship after they leave Egypt. It's one of the most important ones to Israel. And there was actually also a real live bull in Egypt that there could only be one alive at a time, and it was thought to be the actual manifestation of Pharaoh himself. And when that bull died, all of Egypt mourned as if Pharaoh himself had died. So this cut real close to home. And Pharaoh actually sends people to double check. Wait, all of our cattle died? The manifestation of myself, it's dead, but theirs is untouched? He's starting to get a little worried. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of the creatures of the land and more powerful than earthly rulers. He killed the manifestation of Pharaoh himself. I think the Egyptians are starting to catch a clue too and get a little worried. The sixth plague brings disease to the Egyptians, and it challenged their numerous gods of healing and health. It was also significant that God used soot from a kiln to manifest that disease. Pharaoh had tortured the Israelites to make bricks using these same kilns. And now it is dust from these kilns that is torturing the Egyptians. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of healing with power over disease and affliction. After this, God sends a message to Pharaoh in chapter 9, verse 13. This is what Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, says. Remember him? This is what he says. Let my people go so that they may worship me, or this time I will send the full force of my plagues against you and against your officials and your people, so you may know that there is no one like me in all the earth. For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with a plague that would have wiped you off the earth. But I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show you my power and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. You want to know who I am, Pharaoh? I am all powerful, and yet I am showing you mercy right now. I am a God of mercy. Pharaoh still does not believe, but some of his servants do. And when God warned of the next plague, they revered the word of Yahweh and took precautions. We see Egyptians starting to believe. We see Egyptians starting to trust in Yahweh. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of mercy, inviting all to trust him. The seventh plague of hail and fire brings devastation. It destroyed crops and trees and killed people and animals, and the sky and weather gods were helpless to stop it. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of the atmosphere. Even the lightning obeys him. The eighth plague brings locusts and humiliates the crop deities responsible for protecting their food sources. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of provision with power over sources of food and income. Maybe some of you in this room need to hear that. That Yahweh, that our God, is a God of provision. And he has power over every source of food and income and everything that we need. And maybe I'm just telling you that because I have been struggling with that lately and I forget it so quickly. And God is so faithful to remind me time after time that he is a provider. The 9th plague brings darkness. A darkness so complete that Exodus 10:21 tells us it could be felt. A darkness that could be felt. This terrifying plague symbolized the defeat of the most revered Egyptian god, their sun god. And yet, the land of the Israelites was bathed in bright sunlight. The Israelites saw these terrifying displays of God's power over and over again, and now they are seeing God's mercy towards them over and over again. This had to be rebuilding their hope. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of light with power over darkness. And it's at this point, not any point before this, it is at this point right here that God asks something of the Israelites. This is the first time that he has asked them to do something for him. He's asked Moses to do stuff for him, but he has not asked the people to do anything yet. And guess what the first thing he asks them to do is? Go ask your neighbors for gold. Yeah, in 11 verse 2, tell the people that men and women alike, they're to ask their neighbors for articles of silver and gold. Go get some treasure for me. Does anyone else find that weird? And can you picture yourself? You are a slave. You don't have anything valuable, and you never have. And you watch the Egyptians display their wealth constantly. And who are the ones who have given them that wealth? They got that wealth off of your back. And you have never gotten the product of your labor in your own hands. And you have no idea how your Egyptian neighbors are going to react. You're a slave. You are dirt under their feet. But God asks you to trust him, and he asks you, go ask them for something audacious. And they do. And they get piled and piled and piled with treasure and gold and silver and earrings and silverware, and they're just overwhelmed by the insane and confusing and lavish generosity of God. Yesterday, they had nothing. And today, they are rich beyond their wildest imaginings. And it had nothing to do with them. It gave them the most personal and intimate experience of Yahweh yet. He doesn't just see us. He sees me. And it gave them courage to trust him in what he was asking them to do next. So who is Yahweh? He is the God of lavish generosity and assurance. God assures them. And then he asks them to do something even weirder. Kill a lamb, paint its blood on your door, eat it really, really fast, and remember this forever. In chapter 12, verse 12, on that same night, I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn of both people and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. Did you notice that? This is telling us that it was God going to battle with the gods of Egypt. I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am Yahweh. There it is again. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. The 10th plague brought death. Death knocking at the door of every single home in the entire land, the Israelite land included. And the only way that they could be rescued from death is if they trusted God and did this really weird thing. But they did. And their firstborn were saved. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of life with power over death itself. This was the knockout blow that released Egypt's grip on Israel. Pharaoh relented. The Egyptian people literally drove them out. Get out of here or we're all going to die. Please leave. Take all of our treasure. Just get out. And the Israelites, over 2 million strong, were asked to do the hardest thing yet. Walk out of their old life into a terrifying new one that they were absolutely unprepared for. Just want to pause right now. Has God ever asked you to walk out of your old life into a terrifying new one that you felt absolutely unprepared for? Let's see what Yahweh does as Israel is asking the questions. Will God stay with me? Will he ditch me? Am I stupid? How will I survive? Why did I leave? God, can I trust you? That's how Israel is feeling on the literal road out of Egypt. And that is when God showed up for them, visibly, unmistakably, and powerfully. Chapter 13, verse 21. By day, Yahweh went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud that they could actually see this time, in a pillar of cloud to give them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. God knew his people. He knew how scary this was. He knew how unprepared they were, and he never left them. Not once. Who is Yahweh? He is the God who shows up when you need him most. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp near the sea, and Pharaoh will think the Israelites are wandering around in the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them." Say, what now? You want me to do what now, God? We just got out of there. You want me to turn back? And you want me to sit here, vulnerable, next to this ocean, and wait for him to catch up with us? No. That's too much. I think it's also, chapter 14, verse 4. Why was he asking them to do this? He tells them, "I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. It's really easy to think that the Exodus account is God beating up on the Egyptian people. It is really easy to read it that way. But as we saw earlier, God was going to war with Egypt's gods, not Egypt's people. And 3 times in the Exodus account, we read that he is doing this so the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. 3 times. In chapter 7, verse 5, before any of the plagues, And the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring the Israelites out of it. What we just read in chapter 14:4. And then again in 14, verse 18, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh. And some of them did. Pharaoh's magicians professed in God. Some of Pharaoh's servants believed in God with the hail. And we even read that in Exodus 12:38, a mixed multitude of people from Egypt left with the Israelites and joined their nation. This is incredible. God was not beating up the Israelites. He was trying to witness to them as well, to get them out of slavery to Egypt's gods. There is such a cool detail in 1 Chronicles 4:18 that I found a couple of years ago, and it has just, it lights up my life every time I think about it. But in the middle of a super long genealogy, so genealogies are good, and there are great things in there, so don't give up on them. But in the middle of a super long genealogy, we're given this neat little tidbit of an Egyptian that married into the nation of Israel, and not just any Egyptian. 1 Chronicles 4:18 says, these were the children of Pharaoh's daughter, Bithiah, whom Mered had married. Jewish tradition widely identifies her as the Egyptian princess that saved Moses as a baby. There is no way to tell this for sure. Trust me, I combed the Bible, and I even tried to figure out, like, generationally wise, if the timing was right with the genealogy. I spent way too long on this. We don't have a way to know for sure. But the coolest part of this is that her name means something. In Hebrew, her name is a combination of two words, and the first word is bet, and it means daughter. And the second half is Yah. What does Yah sound like? Yahweh, daughter of Yahweh. So we are told in 1 Chronicles that a daughter of Pharaoh joined the Israelites and renamed herself daughter of Yahweh. Isn't that cool, you guys? Oh, the Bible is so cool. God was not punishing the Egyptians. God was trying to save the Egyptians, and some of them were saved. They saw the character of Yahweh and they joined him because Yahweh wants everyone, and he will not rest until he has pursued everyone. Do we believe that? Who is Yahweh? He is the God who wants everyone to be his child. Pharaoh does come after them. The people are terrified. They cry out to God, and he shows them again the kind of God that he is. Then the angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved from in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. And then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind. God of the waters. God of the waters. And the waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. The Egyptian army followed them in. And when all the Israelites had made it through the sea, God had Moses stretch out his hand again, and the waters came crashing down on the Egyptian army. Verse 28 tells us not one of them survived, but the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. And that day, Yahweh saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore. And when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of Yahweh, the people feared Yahweh and put their trust in him. They could trust him because they had seen the kind of God he was. Who is Yahweh? He is the God of salvation, the God of rescue, the God of miracles. And as the 2 million Israelites stood on the shore in complete shock, listening to the water just lapping against the rocks, God probably gave them the most colorful and breathtaking sunrise they had ever seen. Because the Bible tells us this happened at daybreak. I love that detail. Because he wanted to give them a sunrise. And they were in complete awe of Yahweh. And I bet no one wanted to break the silence. Just soaking it in. Eventually, though, because there are 2 million of them, including children, they began to sing. Exodus 15 is so beautiful, and I hope you spend some time this week looking at it. But it is a song of praise that they sang to Yahweh. Songs in stories of the Bible, if you ever see a song just like smack dab in the middle of a Bible story, they act as a highlighter. So they're making you stop and pause and say, okay, something really, 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 really important happened. Let's go back and summarize it right here so that we don't forget. This is a demarcation. And this song that they sing in Exodus 15 is all about who is Yahweh. Listen to some of these statements. Yahweh is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. He is my God, and I will praise him. My father's God, and I will exalt him. Yahweh is a warrior. Yahweh is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he has hurled into the sea. Your right hand, Yahweh, was majestic in power. Your right hand, Yahweh, shattered the enemy. By the blast of your nostrils. Why his nose? The blast of your nostrils, the waters piled up. He can even just snort and the sea parts. It's incredible. The surging waters stood up like a wall. Who among the gods is like you, Yahweh? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glory, working wonders? In your unfailing love, you will lead the people you have redeemed. Can you hear their hope? You will lead us. In your strength, you will guide them to your holy dwelling. You will bring your people in and plant them on the mountain of your inheritance. They list who Yahweh is, and then they list what they believe he is going to do because they know the kind of God he is. And the last verse is this: Yahweh reigns forever and ever. Yahweh reigns. That is kingly language. For 400 years, they have had a king. And he has destroyed them. And they have a new king. And his name is Yahweh. And they know exactly what he's like. They know that he is for them. That he will not forget them. That he heard them and he saw them. And he is powerful to rescue them. And so they have made Yahweh their king. Who is Yahweh? He is our king. What about you? How do you answer that question? If the band wants to come up, they are welcome to do that. We're just going to take a few minutes, seconds, moments, a little bit of time. Because I don't want us to leave this room until we have answered that question for ourselves. Who is Yahweh? What do you actually believe about God? What kind of a God have you seen him be to you? Because what we believe about Yahweh, who we think he is? We just saw it in this song. What we think he is like determines what we think he can do in our lives and if we can trust him.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and we hope the sermon inspired you in one way or another. If you'd like to stay connected with us, feel free to hit the Contact Us button on our website. Let us know who you are and send us any questions or prayer requests you may have. Or visit us in person at Prairie Mountain School in Eugene, Oregon at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram to stay updated on all things Westside. We'll see you next time.